Hello, this is Come Home America with Nick Hancock, the podcast that narrates and navigates the crises of identity and order in America today. I am your host, Nick Hancock, and the show today is going to be about the election again. We are less than 4 weeks out. You know, the last episode I did was almost 4 weeks ago, so I can't allow that to happen again. I'm going to do as many as I can. I woke up early this morning. And, there's folks still sleeping upstairs, but they wake up early sometimes too. So if you hear some footsteps above me, some crazy screaming, lots of energy in the morning in this household, 3 kids and all, then ignore them. They're not on the show. I'm the show. I have guests coming on the show eventually, but not them. Anyway, we did some renovation on the studio here. We're going to get into some important topics today, not just the election, but the militia issue and Michigan in particular, with this plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan. And we're going to talk about the presidential election, how it really comes down to who is the fatherly leader, who is America's dad, who's the father, and is it Joe Biden or Donald Trump? That's where I think the election will come down, and I'll explain why. But what do you think about this? I'm not an interior decorator, okay? So this is actually feeling a little imposing. I don't know if we're going to keep that. I like the American flag. I'm not totally against it. We don't have to pledge like before every show, but I was just trying to think of what could I put on this blank wall, and I thought the American flag would work. I put it horizontal, and then you can't see the stars, so it just is like red and white stripes. I don't know. So I dropped it down, so now you can see the stars. But the problem is, the stars have to be on the left-hand side, and this is the back of the flag, so you see the stitching. So I don't like it, but the light reflects off it too bright. I don't know what we're gonna do, but for now we got it. And back behind me right there is Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. And look, I mean, people are going to see that immediately and think like, oh, okay, he's a moral better. He's a Christian, he's fronting, or there's some ulterior motive or something. Really, I just wanted to put something up, that reminded me why I'm doing this show. Everything goes back to just trying to be a saint, bring my family to heaven, and that's what it's all about. The show is Come Home America. It's not going to be religion very often, but that is going to be a part of the show as well, and not just the way that I practice or whatever, but actually, reflective of the country and communities throughout the country. So I'm interested in that. We'll be going through that. So I put that up there. The books on the shelf, we'll go over them, one day, and obviously I'll be circulating different books out of there. I just wanted to put something up there. This is a fireplace that typically has a lot of knick-knacky things up there, but nothing that really speaks to the show. The Slob's Room sign is handmade by my grandma, so thank you, Grandma. But actually, she didn't make it for me, okay? I'm not a slob. She made it for my dad. It's a hand-me-down. But I am the slob now. So if you could see the rest of this room, you would know why the sign is there. So that's that. It's episode 5, still a new show. But how many episodes can I get through? How many can I make before the election that comes up? I'd like to make some short ones. I think today might run. I'm going to try and knock this out in less than half an hour. Maybe 20 minutes? I don't know. We'll see. I do want to do some shorter ones. Please comment below what you'd like to see on the show. I have my own ideas, but I will check your comments. And I really appreciate all the new subscribers, the likes, the shares, all of that. Fantastic. All right, 5 minutes into the video, let's get some content rolling. So, number one, in Michigan, the Governor Whitmer, there's a plot 6 guys were going to kidnap her and, try and overthrow the government or something to that effect. In the media, they're being called a militia group. Obviously, that connotes that they are right-wing, white supremacists, white nationalists, vigilantes, whatever. And it looks like almost none of that is true. However you want to define a militia, typically when the media puts out the term militia, we already have a picture. Okay, like we know what that is, but that's not really honest. That's not really fair. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the militia as an institution and why it needs to make a comeback, why we need more militias. But these 6 guys are broken up by the FBI, and I haven't looked deeply into this story because it is just another one of these stories where nothing happened, but the FBI made sure that it looked like something was about to happen so that they could stop this from happening. And so thank you, FBI, for keeping us all safe and protecting democracy or whatever. Yeah, I don't think so. So we do know from I'm reading off of M. Tracy on Twitter, Michael Tracy, a left-leaning journalist. He shows that in the court documents, we learn that in the course of its investigation, the FBI relied on information provided by confidential human sources and undercover employees over several months. This is nothing new. The FBI runs these operations. I mean, you can go back and see stories of these young Muslim terrorist groups that were just about to blow up something, and then the FBI stopped them, and it's like, yeah, because the FBI gave them the bomb, like some fake bomb or a fake weapon, or really encouraged them, in private chats or in personal meetings for months on end. The FBI will do this, and so this is known. We're aware of this, and so here it is. And it says here that at least one undercover employee or one confidential human source was usually present during these group meetings. So for months on end, they were recording, they were, participating in, really pushing things along. And it's like the one person on the Ouija board, right, who's like directing the thing, and everyone else really thinks like, something organic or something like unexplainable is going on, something natural or supernatural is going on. And it's like, no, someone's just pushing that thing over the Ouija board and coming up with what they want you to see. Well, I think the FBI is steering this activity. And so, what are we supposed to take from this? Obviously in the media, and they just say Democrat governor, militia, right-wing, violent, left-wing, victim, whatever. Like that's supposed to be the takeaway. And, Michigan is a battleground state, so you can't say there's no political consequence. I mean, if they were with this group for months and months, and it's not like there's a gubernatorial election in Michigan this year. So if they were doing this for months and months, why not wait until after the election to bust these guys? I mean, is it really a coincidence that they busted these guys a month before the presidential election? Something to think about. I mean, but what's really worse than just sort of these concocted stories that are supposed to really impress us is the narrative from the media. Like, they get really excited when they can talk about a militia, a right-wing militia. I mean, it turns out these guys are not right-wing. At least one of them was on YouTube, and he really sounds like a leader to me in these YouTube videos. Just his confidence and how he speaks, and he's putting himself in front of a camera. So quality person, right? He has an anarchist flag behind him, a red and black anarchy, circle A symbol. Looks like Antifa. I don't know if he was Antifa. I guess I doubt it. I guess like he wouldn't want to belong to any group or something. I sort of what I was getting from him. But in videos, he's calling Trump the enemy. He's saying like, Trump is not your friend, dude. He's the enemy. And this sort of stuff. So anti-government, radical, whatever. Oh yeah, and he had these ear piercings that brought his earlobes down to his shoulders. You know those. I don't know, but you know the just mutilate your body and like that. So nice guy, and he's supposed to be your run of the mill, just another white nationalist, white supremacist, racist, vigilante militia member. Doesn't look that way to me. But beyond that story, I mean, what is the real damage being done here? I think beyond that, beyond like trying to meddle in an election, the damage being done is people don't see it, but the militia is being totally discredited as an institution, but it's one of the most formative and most important institutions in American history. You look at the 19th century, Ryan McMakin at the Mises Institute, Mises.org has written about this extensively, and so I also have an article on militias at the Daily Caller, and all I'm saying, my whole case is this institution did great for the American people throughout the 19th century. The founding fathers saw the militia as really just the armed populace. It was really not that technical or that difficult, and it was to be against standing armies. Like, why have a standing army when there's such a threat to your liberty, when you yourself and your community can decide how to defend yourselves, and in the occasion of an emergency or some threat, we can call together the militia and do what needs to be done and then disband again and go back home. Now we have standing armies that the Founding Fathers warned us against. Obviously, that's the army, but it's also the police, okay? And if you're watching the show and you see these symbols behind me, the American flag, the crucifix, I'm wearing a suit, I don't have my earlobes down to my shoulders, and you're saying to yourself, oh, this guy backs the blue lives matter, and a bootlicker this guy is. And it couldn't be further from the truth, okay? I mean, I do see the police force as a standing army, and you see now like the effectiveness of that. Like these riots have been going on since the end of May, and people are buying arms like they have been for the last year, especially after COVID, but really, really especially after these riots, these Black Lives Matter riots. And it's 5 million new first-time gun owners in America in the last year. Well, I mean, where are these 5 million people supposed to go? I mean, that means that training facilities are filling up, personal firearms safety, the safety courses are filling up, the personal firearm trainers, their schedules are filling up, ammo is selling out, guns are selling out. I don't know if you can hear my stomach rumbling, but I might have to eat some food before I come on the air here next time. But I woke up early. I tried to get this done. So, you have that effect of 5 million new gun owners coming onto the market in a short period of time. And where are they supposed to get their training? Where are they, people are turning, they're losing their jobs. It's not like they have a whole lot of money. Guns are expensive. Ammo's expensive. Like, do you have all the time in the world and the money to go and be properly trained? I mean, you really should before it's like going out to eat, and like if you don't have enough for tip, like don't go out to eat. Like, make sure you have enough money to tip. Make sure you have enough money to do a safety course, and usually they're free in some way, but you want to get as much training and practice as possible, especially early on. And so what happens when people can't afford to, or it's frankly just not available to them anymore because of this rush into the market? Well, of course, people are calling their neighbors, their friends, their family. They're saying like, hey, I thought I'd ask you. You seem like you might know, like, what do you think about, this or that? And they're asking questions about guns, and they're wanting to learn more and be proficient. And obviously, there's large incentives behind getting armed on the personal level, because people don't feel safe with these riots, obviously, but they don't implicitly that also says they don't trust the police, or at least they can't really count on the police to come and save them, right? Well, what happens when individuals do defend themselves? Okay, we see with the McCloskeys in St. Louis, Patricia and Mark McCloskey, they defended their home from a mob that broke their private gate down, like this metal gate. It was a nice neighborhood, and that was why the mob went there. They went to a nice neighborhood because they want to do something fun and tear apart the lives of people that they're envious of. So the mob goes into their community. The McCloskeys defend themselves. No shots fired at all. Maybe some tense moments. I mean, come on. There's death and destruction going on in across America and there for several days in St. Louis. So anyway, we've been over this case before. I mean, everyone knows about this case. The McCloskeys are high-profile people. They were speaking at the Republican National Convention. Maybe they'll have their charges against them dropped, but for now, their life is a living hell. The protesters, on the other hand, were not charged until many weeks later with some light trespassing charge. I suspect those will be dropped sooner than the McCloskeys' charges will be dropped. We can wait and see. Kenosha, Wisconsin, Kyle Rittenhouse, originally part of a hastily thrown together militia, which I can talk about. But really his story begins when he breaks off from them and is, really stuck by himself in all the chaos. And there he defends himself. Total self-defense case. He's now facing murder 1 charges. So even though you can defend yourself against the mob, there's the state that comes down after that. That's the real, mob with the it used to be they had a monopoly on legalized violence, but now it looks like, in Portland, you have 90% of arrests or 90% of cases being dropped in relation to these violent riots that have been going on for 4 months, at least. So my point is just if you want to defend yourself against the mob, you could probably do well to arm yourself, but is it worth it? Because then the state's coming down on you and you're losing all your liberties then, and your life is in topsy-turvy mode. Maybe justice will be served and the McCloskeys and Rittenhouse will be, they'll be fine in the end. But was it worth it? And their life's ruined now or altered in a way that they didn't ask for. So what's the incentive now? Like if the incentive was to defend yourself, so you go out and buy a firearm, but then people do defend themselves and it's not really worth it in the long run, well, what are you supposed to do? Not defend yourself? Or what about banding together? And so, like I said, you're calling people people you trust and asking for advice, but maybe also you should be reaching out to folks that not only that you trust for some advice regarding firearms that you're new to or something, but maybe you're not new to firearms, or but you're. It doesn't matter whether you're new to firearms or not. What I'm saying is that you have a church, you have maybe a place of business, some other civic center in the community, or just your neighborhood. If you're together with these groups of people, now amid COVID lockdowns, you're not together as much. But in the sense that you care about preserving this community, at what point do you get with people in Southern California and say, hey, if an earthquake happens, do you have a plan? Like, are you going to need help? I have this, I can help. Maybe we could, just in case, like something happens, right? Or, at a restaurant, the staff probably make sure like someone knows CPR or the Heimlich maneuver in case someone's choking somewhere. Like, so things come up and you try your best to plan for them so that you're not panicking and not causing more trouble than you would otherwise have to. So at what point do we start planning for riots, people entering the suburbs, as we've already seen in Milwaukee and where was it? Minneapolis, Milwaukee, like the suburbs of these cities. And I believe in Portland too. You do see these activists going into neighborhoods, throwing rocks at windows. At what point, you can't defend your house on your own. We know what happens. So at what point do neighbors stand up together? Or what point do, any other establishment. I mean, churches are opening, retail is opening. So at what point do people start standing together? And you might say like, oh, well, the riots will die down. I don't think so. The election's coming up. We're going to talk about that. You think that if it's even like leaning towards Trump, or rather like it really doesn't matter. I mean, if it's close enough election and Trump doesn't concede immediately and like doesn't give the race over to Biden immediately, you don't think there's going to be riots over that? I mean, they're priming the society for this. So there's going to be more panic. There's going to be more chaos in the streets, and the anarcho-tyranny that follows really demands that people organize in their own interest for defense. And so, that does not mean go join some politically ideological group and just go oppose Antifa in the streets. And, you've seen these right versus left clashes in the streets. That's not what this militia idea should be about, and never really was about traditionally. Militias arise out of love for the community, out of love for family, out of love for what's been built and what we call home in a larger sense. Come home, America. It doesn't just mean happy hour's over, go home and watch Seinfeld or whatever. Come home, America means come together and grow what forms you, like grow what gives you meaning, grow your community, grow your country. And there might be hope for that yet. That's what this show's about. So the militia, it will help stop a mob. I mean, we've seen this. You've seen Latino, I don't know if they're gangs or not, but I mean, I think people have called them gangs. So like Latino gangs in Chicago and in Orange County, California, have been able to protect their communities from these marauding rioters and looters, robbers. I don't know what I was saying there, but you get my point. You find power in numbers. When Kyle Rittenhouse was part of that militia protecting the car lot, by the way, that was the third and final car lot that business owner had. He was trying to preserve what was left of his business after two other car lots that he owned were burned down and all the cars destroyed. So they were actually doing a good job. The militia was doing a good job of protecting that property. I believe the police had to ask everyone to move out of that area, and people got split up after that. But as long as they were a group, and it was a hastily thrown together group, unfortunately, but that's what demanded at the moment and what was available. Then mistakes were made because they weren't really well trained or whatever. But in terms of being peaceful and responsible, they were, until Kyle was alone and then Kyle was attacked. And so I think as time goes on, hopefully people will take the time to be peaceful and responsible, because there's so much tension. It'd be really easy to go off. I mean, obviously these 6 nutcases in Michigan, they're not smart dudes. They were taken in by the FBI. And so we see the good, the bad, and the ugly, right, in terms of the potential for militias. But I think the good is so good that I wrote this article at the Daily Caller, which I will link in the description below. So I think I covered the militia thing pretty well. Here, let's see how we are doing on time. Nearly a half hour into this already, so I'm going to try and wrap up this next bit as quickly as I can. And I think with enough of these shows, we will get to really nice, clean-cut, little tight shows that just don't ramble on. That'll be nice. So the election's coming up, less than 4 weeks away. And how are we thinking about this election? For me, it really came together for me. I've decided to vote for Trump months ago. Actually, I'm much more excited about voting for my governor in Indiana, not my current governor, but for a new governor in Indiana. So I'll have to get in on that on another episode. But for now, the election is the big news. Fair enough. We had a debate whatever. I'm not going to go over to the debate, but Trump won. But the big moment of this campaign so far for me, the biggest moment has been Trump coming back to the White House from Walter Reed Hospital, demasking in a big spectacle on the stairs of the White House. He climbed up these stairs, and he I think he breathed or huffed or something after climbing up this big flight of stairs, and the news media was like, "Oh, he's out of breath. He's sick. Why is he?" He's not. He's fine. He just went up a flight of stairs. He's 74. It's a big flight of stairs. Demasks, big spectacle. It's Trump. It's politics. It's spectacle. So I respect that. Trump goes into the White House, films a message for the American people, and what does he say? He says, "I'm feeling good. We have a great medical system. We're making strides here, and COVID is not the end of the world. Okay, you don't have to let it rule over your life. You can have your life. Go out, take a risk, take on responsibility, take a risk, and make something of yourself." Essentially, was what he was saying, not word for word, but essentially he said I think he did use the phrase "be careful." What more could you ask for, folks? I mean, didn't FDR say, "Don't nothing to fear but fear itself"? Didn't after 9/11, weren't we told to not let the terrorists win? Go shopping. It wasn't the perfect message, but essentially, the norm for political leaders has always been calm down. It's gonna be okay. And that's what Trump said, okay? And that's all he said. But it was this encouragement factor that I really respected. It was this go out, open up, do business, live your life, and don't let this rule over you. Don't be a shut-in. Don't, live in fear. That's really what he said. And to me, that is the essence of a fatherly leader. And, as I say, in a sense, we've sort of heard that message from politicians in the past, but Trump is really getting grief now because he's orange man bad. But I think it's a little different in the sense that Trump is not like previous presidents at all. He's not from the military. He's not from any other political office. So it is historical that he is president in that sense. And in that sense, I don't think he comes across with the political and corporate veneer that even Barack Obama did, that certainly the Bushes and the Clintons, and going back, even to Reagan in some sense. Reagan was much warmer and seen as a fatherly figure, but even compared to Trump, I mean, Reagan just looks like a Hollywood actor. He was a Hollywood actor. Pardon. And of course, Trump is a TV personality too, so maybe they're closer than it doesn't matter. But the point is that was a generation ago anyway. So within this generation, Donald Trump is emerging as the fatherly figure who, challenges you to be better, to form yourself, to go out there and take a risk. And on the other side, you have Joe Biden, essentially an absent father, one who's not campaigning. I mean, you thought Hillary wasn't campaigning, Biden isn't campaigning. So, and if not just an absent father who's not even there to encourage you, who's not even there to, to sort of challenge you, he's a jealous father. He is at the end of his life. Kamala Harris will be president if Biden wins, not Biden. And so he's at the end of his life. He's not in his prime. His prime was a long time ago, and he wasted his prime. He's jealous of the potential of the next generation and of the people that he's supposed to serve because, really, he knows he's not as capable of success as the country is as a whole. So his instinct is to equalize everyone, make everyone the same, national mask mandate, lockdown, listen to the experts, which is sort of an excuse and really undemocratic when you think about it. because people aren't making choices for themselves and how to mitigate the risk factors. It's actually the science. They never actually show you the science, but they just claim it's the science, and the science is going to decide for you. This is also Biden, who wants to pack the Supreme Court, and so he wants to, make sure that this centralized power stays as centralized and as politically favorable to his view of the world as possible. So very undemocratic in that sense, and also just very limiting on the people. I don't know if my message is coming across here right, but if you remember Jordan Peterson in 2016 and 2017, he really helped amplify this view of the Father and how we need a return to the Father, a return of the Father. And so I think he tapped onto something. Jordan Peterson became very popular for that. And I think that desire is still in society today. And I think that with that, really Trump has the edge with at least what he did with the mask and the little speech regarding COVID. And we'll see like how far that message goes. It's a very complicated election. But if I had to really narrow everything down and say what's this image here and what's this image here, what's it coming down to? Is it really? Yes, it is a kaleidoscope of issues and different interest groups and whatever. But I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like father, like good father versus absent or jealous father, and that's just the way I see it lately. So, coming down to the wire, that's my analysis there. Going to be following the election as we get closer to it. I might even record something else today, but we'll be recording since this worked out. I woke up early in the morning to do this. I think I'll be able to do more shows as we go into the election. So what should I close out with? I mean, look, Come Home America is about looking at things through a sort of formational institutional framework. And I think that adds another layer that you don't get from other shows typically. And also, I'll be relieved in a sense. I mean, it'll never go away, but I'll be sort of relieved in a sense when the election goes away, because I do want to cover more regional interests, more regional interesting stories around the country. And we can take inspiration from each other and how communities are being built, or we can learn lessons into how communities are falling apart and disintegrating across the country. For now, it really is a bipolar event in the country, and so we might be leaning on that going forward. But if I do enough shows and the news slows down, hopefully people will listen to other things like my militia takes and stuff like that. So check out the links in the description below, and let's start thinking of how to rebuild family, community, church, our identity, the order in the country, and that is going to be different for different locations across the country, as it's meant to be. If we can keep all that united, that's really what we're going for. And people are talking of secession and all that. I mean, that might work out too. I mean, I'm not really against that, actually. So, but these are the directions we're looking at. So I want you to follow along with the show and see where all this is heading. Come Home America with Nick Hancock is at Spotify, BitChute, SoundCloud, Facebook, and did I say here on YouTube? Of course. So please subscribe. Please get your notifications by clicking that bell. Give me a comment. I will read them, and I really appreciate your guys' support. You can find me on Facebook. You can add me on there, and you can find me on Twitter as well. God bless. Thank you so much for listening and watching. This has been Come Home America with Nick Hancock, Episode 5. Have a good one.